Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you from my end. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining from. I just say good day to you. Today, we are really excited to be having a special event. But first of all, before I keep going, I'll be looking at the chat just to make sure we can hear you. You can hear us, right? Most of the time, although there's a bit of lag time. So I'm just going to be looking at the comments just to be sure that once I see a comment, then I know that my audio and everything is correct. So if you're here and you can hear me, kindly let me know in the chat before I keep going and going. Today we are so excited about this event. This is really a special event, as you can see from the banner. And we are really going to have special guests teaching us on topics that are not very popular, but very important. And so I'm so excited about learning about this niche or this area that we are going to be going deeply into this afternoon for my end and evening for most of you who are joining in from Africa. Oh, yeah, that's the first person. I was just looking to see. Hi, Louisa. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for not letting me think I'm talking to myself. There's always that fear you think you're talking to yourself. So please let me know where you are joining from. I see you. Thank you so much. LinkedIn user, I'm not sure who that is, but I welcome you. I welcome you. I can only see LinkedIn user. Just let me know where you are joining from so we just want to have an idea of the demography of our audience. So let me know where you're joining from. Louisa, I see you. I see you dancing. Yeah, I'm also excited. Thank you so much for that emoji. Yeah, that's very exciting. So I'm just looking to see if you're joining us, just let us know where you're joining from. Who is here again? We have Faith. Faith says, yay, I see you. Yeah, Faith, I can see that you're here. Let us know where you're joining from, please. Just type in the chat. Tell me, are you joining from Nigeria, from Ghana, from the US? Where are you joining from? Okay, the first person, Louisa, says she's joining from Ireland. That's beautiful. Wow, is it cold? I assume it's going to be cold this time of the year. Thank you for telling me that. Then we have, who else is telling me where they're joining from? Faith says she's joining from Nigeria. She said, I'm Faith, the hair queen. Okay, queen, no problem. Not arguing that. I'm giving you your flowers. Thank you for joining from Nigeria. Then we have Anato. He said he's also joining from Nigeria. Okay, that's nice. Thank you so much for your participation. Then we have Dem says he's joining from Lome. Okay, that country. It's not a country that comes very easily for me, but thank you for letting me know. There's a lot of people. We see LinkedIn users said they are joining from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you for letting me know. I think I saw somebody else that said they're joining from New York. So that is Hamdi. Hamdi says, oh, hi, I'm Andy. I'm joining from New York. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for being so early. Thank you very, very much. LinkedIn user, you can tell me your name. I do not see a name. I only see LinkedIn user, but you say you're joining from South Carolina in the USA. Oh, okay, good. Good to know you're here in the US with me. Thank you for letting me know. You can also tell me your name so I can shout that out. I don't know if it's your network that is preventing me from seeing the name. Okay, someone else said they are joining from Senegal. Okay, nice. That's a good spread. Oluwatoyin says she's joining from Lagos, Nigeria. I've missed Lagos. It's been a minute since I was in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us. Then we have Maureen. Maureen says she's joining from Asaba, Delta State, Nigeria. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me know. It's just good to have an idea of all the different places where you're joining us from. We appreciate you being here. Okay, we have somebody else. He says he's Engineer Patrick, the king of the road. Okay, he's joining from Nigeria. Thanks for that introduction. Thanks for letting us know. I'm not sure what the king of the road means, but it sounds really cool. So thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. We have Jude. Jude say, hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Jude Eze is joining from Nigeria. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me know. Dr. Foster is joining from South Carolina. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your participation. It's just good to know that we have quite a number of people. We had close to 800 people register for this event. So it's going to be a very busy chat. As much as possible, I'm going to try to keep in touch with the chat while I'm talking to the speakers, because this is going to be a three-way conversation. We want to make sure that you get value for your time. We want to make sure that you're carried along in this conversation. So I'm not going to keep going on and on. I see all of you. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for joining. Mohammed is already saying Africa's role in energy transition is inspiring. Okay, thank you. Latifa says she's joining from Nigeria. Precious is joining from Nigeria. Thank you, everyone. I see all of the chats. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for your energy. Before we keep going, I'm going to briefly introduce myself for those of you who probably do not know me. I'm hoping that most of you do. But just in case you don't know me, right, my name is Dr. Amaka, and I'm the founder and lead coach of Scholar of Mentoring Academy. And you may wonder, what is Scholar of Mentoring Academy? I'm not going to take too long explaining that to you. Instead, I'm going to just play a 1-minute video telling you about Scholar of Mentoring
Success
Academy.
begins with the right guidance
so
and opportunities. And at Scholar Up Mentoring Academy, we are here to help you unlock your full potential. Whether you're preparing for graduate school applications or building a standout professional presence on LinkedIn, we provide the tools and support you need to thrive. Our programs are designed to help you craft a compelling personal brand, position yourself for global opportunities, and achieve your dreams. Led by Dr. Amaka Ifaduba, a dedicated mentor and coach, Scholar Up empowers you with personalized mentoring, actionable resources, and proven strategies to take bold steps toward a brighter future. Scholar Up Mentoring Academy is more than a program. It's a community dedicated to helping you succeed. Take the first step today and discover how we can guide you on your journey to greatness. Follow our page for updates and access all our resources at linktree.com/scholarupacademy. Your success story starts here.
Okay, thank you for giving me a minute. So basically at Scholar of Mentoring Academy, our goal is trying to reach two groups of people. The first set are professionals who are trying to build their personal brand on LinkedIn. So we have our LinkedIn Elevation program. We are actually in the 9th cohort. We are trying to get professionals to come out, and show what they can do. They should be able to show the values they bring to the table. We all know that at this age and time, it's no longer enough to say, I know what I'm doing. It's also important to be able to communicate what you are doing and communicate it well. How do you tell your story? How do you sell your brand? How do you position yourself for global opportunities? That is one arm of Scholar Up. And then the second arm is graduate students, which our events today kind of touches on that arm, right? We try as much as possible to provide resources for students who are trying to go to school internationally. If you're trying to go to the US, then of course, I'm here to support you. If you're trying to go to France, then Augusta is your go-to person for you to get the opportunities, for you to understand the process, what you need, and the things you need to learn to get into school. So that is really what we do at Scholar Up. And very soon we are going to be reaching our 1-year anniversary. So we've been a while on this, and it's been so amazing the number of people that we've touched in our programs. We've had more than about 500 participants now from across 15 different countries who have joined our program in one shape or form. And then we've had up to like 400 aspiring graduate students. And I know Augusta has had more than 700 graduate students, guided them towards France for grad school. So today we are just going to jump in straight because we have a very interesting conversation. It's not about me, it's about what you came here to learn today. So I'm so excited to get right into it. Before I keep going on and on, I'm going to bring up Augusta, who is my co-host and my dear lady, right? Augusta is someone that even the AI is combining us. I'm trying to get Augusta to come up. Just give me a minute. I'm going to bring up Augusta. Okay. Yep, I'm trying to see. I'm not sure why it's. Oh, okay. We made it. I think the network kind of ceased for a minute, so I was clicking the button and it wasn't working. But you're here now. You made it here. Thank you, Augusta, for coming up. Augusta is actually like one of the main person for this event, right? So it's so good to have you here. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself before we bring in our special guests? And we see all of you in the chat. Thank you for keeping the chat busy. We see you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Amaka. I'm Augusta E. Momo, not Augusta Ifeduba, as the AI said this morning. So I work with Amaka to empower international students study abroad. I'm the senior executive administrator of Scholar of Mentoring Academy, and I'm also the Africa Development Officer for emlyon Business School. So I am responsible for strategy partnerships between emlyon and institutions across Africa. I'm a top rated content creator and an education specialist ranked by Babicon. I'm currently number 5 in the whole of education in Nigeria and number 2 in higher education. So, guys, we're all about bringing you value, all about bringing you the best speakers to empower you with the knowledge, skills, and everything you need to to succeed professionally and academic wise. So much ado about me. Let's go right into the event, and I'm just going to be here taking notes and making sure that everything runs smoothly as co-host of this event. And see you later.
Okay, thank you, Augusta. I'm going to bring in the next guests. Okay, I don't know why it's giving me.
I see you, Verena. I see you, Roselle.
Okay, Mr. Moubarak, thank you for joining us for this event today. We are really excited to have you. You are a special guest to us today, and you're going to be teaching us, really educating us on an important topic. So, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself, sir, while I bring up the next person, so we can just jump right in.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Amaka and Augusta, for having me. And hello to everyone. Good evening, good morning, and hello to from everywhere you're coming from. I am Moubarak Moukaila. I am the head of Financing Sustainable Development at the West African Development Bank, and also head the West African Alliance on Carbon Market and Climate Finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that brief introduction. Miss Dr. Thibaut, can you go ahead to introduce yourself?
Hello. Well, thank you, Amaka. Thank you, Augusta. It's great to be here. I'm Thibaut, so I'm a senior consultant working on different energy policies with different regions of the world. I've been doing this job for the past 20 years, first in China and then in other countries in the world. I'm now co-piloting a new master degree that we're launching at the emlyon Business School, where Augusta is also working on international energy transitions. We call it management of energy transitions, and I will tell you a bit more about this later. And I've been, over the past, say, 4 or 5 years, no, a bit more than that, actually. I've been working a lot with mostly West and Central African countries on carbon markets. And I've had the chance to meet Moubarak quite some time ago now. And we've been doing lots of great projects together. So it's great to have the chance to be with him tonight.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Okay, now we are ready to start. We see all the people in the chat saying hello to us. We say hello to you right back. We are going to start the conversation, and please, at any time you have a question, please feel free to drop it on the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat. I know Augusta is also going to be looking. We want to make sure that we are addressing your questions and we're addressing your concerns. But we have a lot to unpack this evening, right? Or this afternoon for me, this evening for you. There's a lot for us to learn, so it's better for us to get started with the conversation. So, Mr. Moubarak, I'm going to start with you. I just want to actually get a background on our topic, right? This topic, it's not an everyday term. You hear energy access, climate finance. Could you just give us a broad overview? What is that? If you're explaining that to someone who is 5, what is it? What does it mean? That's a good place to start.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I did not actually do a broad introduction of myself because it's very important for this first question, and that's the reason why I didn't go into details of my introduction. But while answering this question, you will kind of see more on my background. So the basic information you need to have when you talk about climate finance is all resources mobilized. So it's either local content from commercial banks, local commercial banks, subnational, transnational, international resources that you mobilize either from the public sector or the private sector, and that you finance a project. But then the project has to also mitigate or adapt to a situation, and it has to go towards climate action. So that's how it becomes a climate finance resource. Otherwise, it's not necessarily climate finance when you don't address both mitigation and adaptation. So that's one of the core things. So to be able to address and work into climate finance field, many people usually tend to ask what field, what studies do you need to have, what background do you need to have, and so on and so forth. I myself had a I had a bachelor degree from Suffolk University in Boston in global business, and a minor in marketing, and then went on to Boston University to do a master's in finance and economics. So initially didn't have a climate finance background, but then on the ground, while I started working about close to 20 years ago now, I learned, I had other certificates and implemented and learned, did some other degrees in sustainability that supported and helped me to have this background. So basically, you don't really need to have any specific criteria. Everything we tend to do today, especially in our region here in Africa, like my CEO usually says, climate finance or sustainable finance is not a trend anymore. It's a normal finance for us because every situation we are in Africa, when you look at it, actually we address one way or the other a sustainable development issue. So we tend to use normal finance, but then have all this eligibility criteria from sustainable development attached to it. So a profession, I would say typically that a professional in climate finance will need a combination of financial expertise and have a knowledge of the general SDGs, general environmental science, ESG components, and also related field. I have a friend that actually works in health and supports health project development, and her issue is actually how do I become an expert in climate finance? And the only thing I tell her is that you need to know the global international architecture on engagement on SDGs, engagement on climate finance, and see how you can incorporate those aspects in your day-to-day activity. Because you don't need to change your field, but you need to bring innovation. You need to use innovation to incorporate all these issues into your own field to make sure that you participate in climate finance. So in a nutshell, this is how I can introduce climate finance, and we'll develop more in following questions.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very insightful. And I think one key thing that I got from what you said is that you don't necessarily need to become somebody else. You don't need to start a different field. You just need to bring in innovations into what you're already doing. You need to understand the SDGs and all of those things. So thank you so much for providing that insight. A couple of people joined us while you were speaking. Somebody was saying hello to you. Engineer Patrick said, Mr. Moubarak, it's good to have you here. So I wanted you to see that. And then we've had a couple of people join us. Hello, Dr. Amaka and friends. Tracy, we say hello right back to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And then we have Dr. Gwendolyn, PhD. Hello right back to you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all for being here. And we are happy to know that you are in the chat and you're listening to us. And if you have any question at any given time, you can just write question at the beginning. Just put question and then you write the question. That way I can easily pick and see that it's a question. So Dr. Thibaut, I'm just going to follow up on what Mr. Moubarak was telling us. You were describing that you're starting a program and you're going to be championing this program. So I want to know how this program at Emlyon School will prepare students to become leaders and really land leadership roles in the energy sector. What do students, how will your program help them to achieve the goal that they seek to achieve? So from the student perspective, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this question. Indeed, this is a program that I'm very excited to be working on. And just to clarify, Moubarak works on climate finance. Here we're talking about energy. So there's lots of overlap, but it's a tiny bit different, obviously. But to tell you a little about the program very quickly, what we've done, I mean, this is a program that is about to be launched in September this year first, and that will take place in Paris. And what we've done with my colleagues, who unfortunately couldn't be here, the co-director of the master, is that we've been talking to many international companies, HR companies, headhunters, utilities, think tanks, and so forth, and try really to understand what today are people, are big corporations, or any experts in the field, what are they expecting from someone who's positioning themselves in the energy sector. And we've came across three main topics, three main types of training that we believe are very important. The first one is technology knowledge, energy technology knowledge. And this is possibly where it differs a little from climate, because in the energy sector, sometimes you need to get into the technical nitty-gritty of some of the technologies. So typically solar, wind, nuclear, but also oil and gas, energy efficiency, also end-use sector like energy in agriculture, energy in development, energy in buildings, and so forth. So that's a big chunk of the work. And this training will be aimed at people who have close to zero knowledge on these topics. They will not become engineer at the end, obviously, but we're hoping that they will be able to better to understand what they're talking about and have a conversation with engineers and the people, the experts of this sector. Then we add up the traditional business training of a business school. So everything that relates to project management, financial audit, also innovation, how to create a company, how to identify, if you're interested in finance, if you're working in a VC in the VC field, how to identify a company and bring them to another scale. All these type of things. There's a third dimension also, which is one of the most exciting. I think it's all about soft skills. So, I mean, the world today is very complex. It has become much more complex the past few months. And energy is very international. So when the world is getting more complex, it means the energy world is also getting more complex. We need for people to become, we will make sure that the students become agile, that they have a good understanding of the international context, that they know what's happening, let's say in sub-Saharan Africa, like you. The situation is so different whether you're talking to some people in Nigeria, in Côte d'Ivoire, in Senegal, Kenya, South Africa, all different situations. We want people to be able to have at least the basic knowledge of what's happening and to know what's happening. In addition to this, very shortly, we want really to make sure that the students have an international exposure. So we have an international crowd of teachers. The registrations are open now, and we have also very diverse profiles coming up from the US, from China, from Nigeria, from other places of the world. No European for the time being, to my big surprise. But I mean, no European who made it to the who actually managed the test and registered. And then they will have a couple of months that they will be spending in Shanghai. China is, as you know, a behemoth when it comes to energy, so it's very important to get used to it. And then finally, we want to make sure that the students work in an environment which is already the professional life. Interactions with different actors. There will be some masterclass from think tanks on how to write a paper, how to create some outreach to different stakeholders. We will publish some of these papers with think tanks. There will be some work with companies, innovation challenge on how to build your company and everything. So the idea is really that this master is not so much about learning, teaching, but also about a first step in the career.
Wow, thank you so much for that detailed explanation. Like, I was just listening to you and I was like, hey, maybe I need to do a master's degree myself, right? Maybe that's the next thing for me too, right? And I love how you said that you guys went into details to ask companies or industries what they are looking for. That's the best way to design things. Ask people what they want, and then you can build people up to fit those roles. That's very impressive. Thank you so much for taking the time to break down all the efforts that you're trying to put into bringing this program to life and making sure that the students who go into this program finish as wholesome as possible. Okay, so we see people in the chat again. Verena says, you have a great profile, Mr. Moubarak. Such a great profile. Okay, I wanted you to see that compliment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we have David say he's glad to be here. And then Engineer Patrick said, it's good to have you here. It's Dr. Thibaut, but thank you for welcoming him. It's impressive. Thank you so much. So I'll go back to you, Mr. Moubarak. Now our focus is like Africans, right? And we are three of us at least on this panel are Africans, and we understand some of the grassroots challenges that we face in Africa. So the question I want to ask you is, young professionals in Africa who are really interested, they really want to get into this climate tech and energy sector, how do they prepare themselves? What do they need to do, given the limitations that they already have based on their demography, which you are aware? What should be the first step for them?
All right, thank you very much, and I think you rightly touched the points, and it's also a very big challenge for us in the field that we're working on right now, and we look at it over and over again. Most of the time, when we're looking for expertise, especially in the field of sustainable development or climate finance, or even basic environment issues, we always tend to go to the international market to find the expertise, to get the people. We have to like do international tenders and all that. But the real thing is that our people are capable of doing the thing, but unfortunately don't have access to not only the information, but also to the available issues out there. So what we are doing at the West African Development Bank, with the support of key partners like the IFC and the Global Compacts with Africa, is that we have launched a center. It's called the Sustainable Finance Center for Excellence for Africa, and it's actually an online platform where you actually learn about all these issues. We have some courses that where we give certificates. Some of them we organize webinars to kind of share those information and all that. And I'm really happy to see that Thibaut is also with other colleagues developing instruments that will enable youth from Africa to do all this performance. But one of the things that I also encourage young Africans to do is to participate in work done by NGOs, participate in activities done by civil societies, because there you have you share knowledge, you learn from the ground, and that's very important when you're talking about sustainable development or climate finance. What's the issues that the nature-based solution, the issues, the local content is really important, and it's also really good to learn that. I hear a lot of you saying that most of these activities are not paid, most of these trainings are not paid, and all that. But it's also very good to have this background, to have it on your CV, to have it as a tool to learn more and to be able to do these activities. And believe it or not, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, the fields that will occupy most, that will hire most of the youth, will be around climate finance, will be around sustainability, will be around energy, because without energy, believe it or not, there is no development, there is no such a thing as development. So I believe that we need to work closely, we need to look at all opportunities out there, building networks around climate issues. You see, we're having this event, for example. It's an event where we can also have, you can also start looking at the people that are connected, the people that might be future interest, and start building your own network, because it's very important that tomorrow as well you build network. You were talking about, I saw in the presentation you had at the beginning, the support you give to better your presence on LinkedIn, for example, which I believe is very important. So those are the areas where you can make sure that you have a really good presence, a suitable presence, to be able to attract recruiters when they're looking at it, or also see opportunities out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very insightful answer, and it's so true what you share about networking, right? We would always say that as much as what you know is important, who you know also matters, and who knows you, who knows what you know. That makes
Exactly.
it makes a lot of difference. That you, as young professionals at this age and time, a lot have changed. It's not what it used to be 20 years ago. Nowadays, people want to see you online and see projects you've worked on. They want to see the work you've done. They want to see the skill set that you bring to the table. So thank you thank you for putting that out there. It's very important, and thank you for sharing all of those insights about encouraging young people to volunteer. That is something I'm also big on. I tell people, yeah, as much as you want to be paid for things, sometimes what gives you the skill set that sets you apart is the work that you do and you volunteer. And you have it on your CV, and beyond having it on your CV, you would have accumulated those skill sets, and it just sets you apart from the crowd. So that makes a lot of difference. Thank you. Let me look at our friends in the chat again, just so they know they are here with us. So Engineer Patrick is also saying, absolutely, we are ready for the exposure. So he's talking to you, Dr. Sibo. He's responding to something you said. Okay, and then we have Albert. He said that was an impressive introduction of processes. Okay, thank you so much for your contribution. Oh, there's been a lot of chat. A lot of people are saying hello, 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 hello. We see you. Hello, right back to you, Dr. Josiah. Dr. Josiah is in Ghana. He said this is a very essential and timely discourse. Thank you so much, Dr. Josiah. We are so happy that you are able to join us. And then this is my adopted younger brother, Ikechukwu. He says, like they say, your network is your net worth. Okay. Thank you so much for adding that.
Definitely.
Thank you for adding that to the chat. All right. So let me get back to you, Dr. Thibaut. Right now, I want to just hear about some of the exciting innovations, because we are talking about these things that a lot of people are not very familiar with these topics. If I'm being very honest, they're not everyday conversations that people know a lot about. So what are some of those exciting innovations that young people can even begin to plug into immediately? So could you share some of those things from your perspective or from some of the work you've done? Yes.
Not the easiest question to answer. There's so much happening all the time, and energy. I mentioned all the field that we're exploring. It's huge. There's so many different topics, so many different things happening. So I probably don't know the biggest innovation that is occurring right now. What I can tell you, however, is that the thing that everybody is talking about these days is, I'm sure you can guess it by on your own, artificial intelligence, AI. Everybody's talking about it. It has implications, I believe, in every sectors, and energy is one of them. Moubarak was talking about the access to data, to information. And by the way, I completely agree with everything he said. It was music to my ear. And that's great to see how much we are aligned on this. But yeah, data is also very crucial when it comes to energy consumption, energy production. And AI typically can help utilities, can help different companies to predict the energy consumption of the households, of the companies, and everything. And this can really be a game changer in order to know how much electricity you need to put on the grid when and everything. That's very important. But that's very broad. If you look at a bit more in depth, if you look at more specific case studies, I know there's lots of stuff happening in Africa, and I would like to highlight this. Like, I've heard about companies like, you come from Nigeria. There's many people from Nigeria here. I know. I've heard about PAM or PAM Africa that is doing exactly this: real data monitoring that they service to the grid operators in order to better manage the electricity consumption. That's extremely important. Benin, Moubarak knows it very well. There's lots of things happening there on energy access. I heard about a company called MyJulebox, which facilitates the installations and the monitoring of mini grids in order to obtain electricity access. My favorite one, I have to say, one of my favorite ones is also a company from Rwanda. I don't know if there's anyone from Rwanda here, but it's called SLS. And what they're doing is that they take end-of-life batteries from phones and they recycle them in order for them to store the electricity from solar panels in order to power people. That's great. So these are all some great innovations, but there's innovations, but there's also low tech. And I just would like to say a couple of words about this, because of course, technology is very important, but we should not forget what we have here available. And I'm working a lot on building energy performance, the energy the buildings are consuming, how we can reduce this energy consumption, how we can improve the comfort in our building by having better ventilation, cooler temperatures in summer during heat waves, or better heating during the cold winters, especially in the north. And one of the key technology we're talking a lot about, one of the best practices is actually the Nubian Vault that was developed in Egypt, if I'm correct, and that has been spread and arranged and improved in many different countries, from Cameroon to Senegal and many others, because this is using biomaterials. So it's easy to use. You don't need lots of investment. The insulation is very good. And this is also a low tech that we should really bring forward in addition to the high tech.
Thank you so much. That's really exciting. Yeah, I guess it's just as you said, it's like a lot of things happening at the same time. And I guess the important thing is for people to figure out where they can plug in and begin to learn to diversify. Thank you so much for that detailed explanation. And I was just looking at the chart, and Kika Chiku says, well detailed explanation from Dr. Thibaut. Thank you so much for your insight. And then Divine is reiterating. She says, volunteering gives you skills that set you apart. I'm a testimony to this. Divine is my mentee, in whom I'm well pleased. She's one of my very, very special mentees. All right. And then I think we had somebody else who said something. Blessed Ife Oluwa says, innovation will be implemented via the PBL, problem-based learning. Universities, senior schools should encourage PBL, that is problem-based learning. I guess you're right? People should learn to solve problems. You should really be learning something for the sake of using it to solve a problem. It should not just be for the sake of learning. Okay. And then we have more insights. So I advise young youths to strive and acquire digital skills as needed in their course of study. There is demand for digital skills almost in all fields. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maureen. We appreciate you for giving the insight. We have Coach David here. He says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you too. We are so happy that you're able to join us. There's a lot of feedback from the chat. Okay, Salim says, thank you very much for your valuable insight. Would you consider someone pursuing an MSc in disaster risk management to be a suitable candidate for roles in climate tech and finance? So I guess that's a question. That's a question for you, Mr. Moubarak, I guess. So Salim is trying to find out,
Yes.
he's trying to understand, do you consider him a suitable candidate? What should he do? Thank you so much for that question, Salim. I'm sure you'll get some insight from it.
Yes, thank you very much. If I may, I saw two one question towards me, asking where I am from, and if you allow me, I am from Benin, not Benin City, but Benin Republic. So from West Africa, Benin, and very happy to see people here. Also, the question on the disaster risk is very important, and I think it's one of the key elements that we are using as innovation in all the projects that we're doing right now. And if you look at my LinkedIn page, you will see that we have launched recently many projects dealing with the disaster risk, and actually have a proven project from Togo that benefited from last October floods, benefited from the KfW funding with the West African Development Funding to about 6 million euros to solve and support all the disaster issues. So I believe it's an area that will have more and more has a very good, prominent, and prosperous future. So I encourage you to focus and to hold on tight to that. So one of the things also that we are doing in our region, and I believe is very important, is that we are looking at how our supports can come and fill in the gap for sustainable development. When you look at sustainable development issues, none of them in our area has been implemented for more than 30%, and we are talking about 2030, where everyone has to reach SDGs. But unfortunately, we are very far behind, and I believe we need to all come in. We need to all find innovation and find solutions to focus on them. We may not have all of them achieved, but there are key ones that we need to tackle. There are very specific ones that we need to tackle. And for the West African Development Bank, we have simple and very straightforward ideas on what we need to do. We need to focus on energy access, because many people are talking today about energy transition and all that, but we cannot afford to be doing energy transition when you don't have access. So the one important thing is energy access. The second thing is agriculture that we are focusing on. So those two sectors alone will take about 40 to 60% of our future fundings from this year. And of course, there are some elementary areas where we need to work on education, health, and affordable housing, because that's also very, very important. So those are the focus areas where we are working on. And very recently, we have done a very innovative project that I am actually very, very proud of. And I use your platform to also congratulate again my team, even though I have already done that. And it's a project that received a grant from the GCF to actually support climate adaptive living facilities in West African countries, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Niger. And the project actually aims at giving capacity to and promotes the adoption of climate responsive practices and innovative financing mechanism among local governments. And it's actually through public and private partnerships within the local government, local regions. And one of the things that we're doing is that we're using the grant component to actually finance the project developer, the private sector people in the local areas. And at the end of the payments period, we only take back the principal of the projects. So we speak with the private sector developer, and then we agree on an interest rate. They actually tell us what interest rate they want to apply on this project. Let's say 10%, 15%. They actually, even if the person will say 100%, it's up to the person to say how much they are willing from the investment portfolio they are willing to put on this project. At the end of the day, when the project, the payment period is done, we actually only take back the principal, and all the interest becomes their resource. So this instrument actually help them to build a suitable funding capacity for future investment. So then in the future, they are able to also use those resources to do other things. And the principle that we take can also be used to fund another private sector institution. So I think it's very important. And right now, the project will support about 85 local governments in all these countries that I've mentioned, and it has been really done with the most vulnerable communities within those countries, to really empower them to actually tackle the poverty level issues in those countries. So this is a project that I'm really happy, content that we've done, and we will be happy. We are actually talking to other governments in the region to see how we can also duplicate this initiative in those countries.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much for breaking that down and for the exciting projects you're working on. And when you mentioned agriculture, I just smiled because I guess something I did not say is that my background is in agriculture, right? So I actually got my PhD in horticultural sciences. I'm a plant breeder by training. Yeah, so it's I always something I always tell people is that agriculture has become everybody's business, and it cuts across all sectors. It's no longer enough to say it's a group of people that have to deal with it, because it really tackles everything that we need to do. So thank you so much for providing those insights. Now I want to get back to our friends on the chat. Please help us repost this event. I haven't said that since today, right? Help us repost in case there are other people who need to come into this conversation to just join in and hear what you're hearing. Kindly repost it to your page. That would be really great. Thank you so much for keeping the chat busy. And I think Mr. Moubarak said something earlier. This is a networking event too. If you are a very smart person, if you know how to network, you know that if you are in a space with 50, 100, 200 people who are listening to the same thing, it already means that you have something in common. It means that there is something bringing you together, that you already have similar interests. So these are the people you want to connect with, you want to make them your friends. You really want to see where you can begin to build those collaborations. Networking is about intentional efforts, right? You meet people, you see the places where you connect. 1 year ago, I never knew Augusta. Now I feel like I cannot live without her, right? So that's how life is. And LinkedIn only brought us together. It's not, I probably would never have met her if I was not on LinkedIn posting and we connected and we could see how we could work together, how we could collaborate to do beautiful things like this. So I'm just reiterating that so that you are intentional about meeting people of like minds, connect with them, build real relationships with them. Okay, thank you very much. So Dr. Thibaut, I'm going to get back to you. This question is similar to the question I was about to ask you, and I see Erimosele asked the question. He said, with the rapid growth in energy transitions, what specific roles or career paths do you see becoming high demand in the next 5 to 10 years? So that's similar to what I wanted to ask. So I guess he was reading my mind because he's my adopted elder brother. So I have a lot of adopted siblings. So
That's a very good question indeed. I don't think that the type of job will experience a major change in the 5 to 10 years. I'm hoping that the demand for these jobs will be higher, but I'm thinking one typical type of job, at least the type of job that we're trying to train people on, is to be able to manage huge projects. So we're talking about infrastructure projects. It can be building EV charging stations in a country, in a region, or whatsoever. It can be building a wind farms. It can be working with the transition of oil and gas infrastructure. It can be also, who knows, nuclear or whatsoever. So managing international projects with many different stakeholders, with a multi-billion-dollar plan for several years. I think this is really one of the jobs that is the most demanded. But then it's one of them, and you have many different demands. Being an analyst, understanding how the field is evolving, how the prices of energy is evolving, what type of critical raw materials you need for your infrastructure. So you can do this for a finance organization, for a think tank, for the government. That's also in high demand. Then public relations. That's also very important, and the importance is actually growing. Energy is a strategic issue, so you always need to have conversation with the government. You always need to be well connected, be it at the national government to get all the approvals, but also at the local level, because these infrastructures are built on the territories of some cities of local governments, and you also need to work with these people. Then you have startups, being able to work in to create your own business, to get innovation and put them at scale. Adding to all the finance questions, it's a very long list. These are all the jobs I can thinking of, and further to that, I think you also have, it also depends on the sectors. So, I mean, energy is, when you're talking about energy, this is absolutely huge, right? You have different realities. The energy system that I believe, the energy source that I believe is really important and that is scaling up very rapidly is solar. So solar PV is really a field of the future. And I've read some academic studies, very recent ones, that are showing that by 2030, if I remember correctly, solar power will be the cheapest source of energy all around the world, except Finland, I think, where it will be offshore wind. But that shows the potential and the benefits of this. I believe also in Africa, and Moubarak mentioned it very clearly, the question of energy, all the use of energy to promote development, to encourage energy access, to fight against energy poverty through energy efficiency, and so forth. That's also very important. Then at the global level, right now, there's a very strong push for nuclear power. Big question whether this will last, how will this work, but that's definitely, as of now, seen as a field of with great promises.
Wow, thank you. Okay, you want to add something, Mr. Moubarak?
Yeah, no. I wanted to just add on to what Thibaut has just said, and throw in. I like to do this because we are here, and I see that there are many Africans in this conversation, and it's very interesting to see what is going on in Africa. There are a lot of initiatives on solar energy, a lot of initiatives on off-grid energy and all that. But the main issue that we see here is we have two issues. One of them is the enabling environment that is a very big barrier to access to energy, and I believe if we need to really look at that, we need to make sure that we have that clear conversation. Otherwise, we will not get there. We will not get to where others are. And the second thing is that we are looking at the wrong issue, because when you look at all the development, all the plants that are being promoted here and there, one of the things that we don't look at is the distribution aspects. And when you look at countries like the United States or even the European countries and all that, production is not only, and distribution are not only to the government's, in the government's hands. They are also very strongly private sector oriented, so that because it's a service. So as long as you don't do a service with the private sector, someone that has added value to it, it will be you will have a strong barrier. So those are the issues that we really also need to look at, because it's not only production, but it's also the distribution that has aspect. There are countries that I will not name them that have huge solar plants, but those plants are not functioning right today because the distribution also is an issue, and they're not investing enough in the distribution. They're not looking at the right way to do it. So we need to also look at those aspects and make sure that we all come to an understanding that it's not the availability of the energy source, but it's really how do we access, how does the end users gets access to that energy.
Okay, thank you so much for adding on to that contribution. I guess, Dr. Thibaut, to round up your point, what I got from you is that there's a lot of rapid changes going on and, so many innovations with AI and all of those. So I wonder, how can students or professionals, how can they stay ahead of the curve? How do they equip themselves such that as things are changing, how do they become adaptable to stay ahead and not feel like they are left behind? What insight or what advice would you give?
I think you need to be curious. You always need to. You need to be curious. You need to be passionate, and you need to be humble. So you need to explore the field. You need to talk to as many people as possible. You need to read a lot. You need to talk a lot. If you can, you need to travel to see what's happening in other places of the world. And thankfully, today we have wonderful tools of communication, so that makes the discussion easy. I think events like this are also great to get to keep yourself informed. But yeah, just networking. I mean, I'm just repeating what we've said: networking, reading, getting information from everywhere. Considering that it's such a vast area that you cannot you cannot really get an overall, you cannot have an overall knowledge of all that is happening everywhere in the world, obviously. And also considering that sometimes, as I was saying, for the innovation, don't look too far ahead. Don't look at Silicon Valley. Don't look at Tsinghua University or whatsoever. Or also look at what's happening around you, because we're talking sometimes about very, very practical issues. And the most exciting things may be simply the energy community that is being established next door, the mini grid in a few kilometers away, or the way people are managing their energy. There's a lot happening everywhere, and that's what makes this field very exciting, I think.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to recap the three first things you said. You said be curious, be passionate, be humble. I think those are very important traits to succeed anywhere, right? If you really want to get ahead in your career, any career that it is, you need to stay curious. You need to inform yourself as much as possible. You need to stay passionate. You need to be willing to learn and unlearn. And then you need to be humble to realize that you're never going to have all the information by yourself. So in talking to people, in learning from others, in collaborating with other people, you would continue to make greater impact. So this will just lead to my next question for Mr. Moubarak. But before I do that, I just want to see what our friends are saying in the chat. I think Emmanuel says, thank you so much for giving this value freely. Emmanuel, you are welcome. We are happy to be here. We hope you're learning a lot. And then Dolapo is saying hello to everyone. And then Eremosele is thanking you for your insights. Oh yeah, I'm seeing a lot of feedback. Okay, we have Princess. She says she's Princess. She helped founders and venture capitalists to navigate chaos by handling time-consuming administrative tasks. It's lovely to be here. Princess, it's good to have you here. It's good to see that. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I want to see what Divine is saying. Say high tech and low tech. This is new to me. Thanks for the insight, Dr. Thibaut. Okay, good, you've learned that. We have a lot of participation. Georgina says, seeing the challenges linked to renewable energy potential for industrial development in Germany after 20 years of investment in this field, do you think we can consider it as one of our main source of energy? Okay, that's an interesting question. So who's going to take that? Dr. Thibaut or Mr. Moubarak?
Well, I can attempt to bring an answer to
Okay.
this question. One of the things, and I am into climate finance, but one of the things that I tell people, and it's really bluntly, and I say it's well, you have countries like Nigeria that has huge potential and huge oil, fossil fuel reserves. You have countries like Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire that have discovered very recently huge reserve of fossil fuel. And one of the things that I say again, Africa has less than 30% of energy access. So one of the things that we want to make sure to have is to have available energy. But the thing that we want to do, and that's why collaboration, international collaboration is important, is that we don't want to make the same mistakes as Europeans or Americans made in the past, using fossil fuel with very polluting technologies and all that. Right now, we have technologies that even with producing energy with fossil fuel, you have low emissions. So we need to use those. We need to use fossil fuel to develop a strong, available, and stable energy, but then have very strong energy transition, energy mix. We can have a very important energy mix, like we're using renewable energy sources and other thermal sources to make sure that we have a blended energy resource to make sure that our industries, our hospitals, and all that have energy when they're needed. So it's very important. I totally agree that we need to look at the technologies out there, but it's very important that we make sure that not only we have access, but we have also a very good transition plan established by the countries.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that insight. Thank you for providing that answer. Okay, and then Salim is saying, thank you, Mr. Moubarak and Dr. Amaka, you are welcome. And then we have Blessing. She says, your connection is your bandwidth of information. You're totally correct. Indeed, your connection helps you to reach more information that you have. Dr. Gwendolyn says, great conversation. She's a literacy and leadership trainer for struggling leaders. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you so much for telling us. And then Eremosele says, thank you. I'm trying to see if there is another question so that we take that before we move forward. Then we have Michael said, considering how clean energy production is going viral, most especially solar energy for electricity, how can all homes in Africa, especially be empowered to have access to it? Okay, so Mr. Moubarak, I guess that's you again. How do we have access to it? How do everybody be empowered to have access to this in Africa?
No, definitely, and that's what I was saying. Like households, single solution, single homes solutions. I think renewable energy, solar energy, especially, is a very good solution, and I believe governments can promote more and more. But the things that we need to do with governments is that they need to subsidize this elements to make sure that we promote them more. When you look at the country's engagement, and usually when I speak with governments, I always tell them this: you have engagements towards Paris Agreement, towards sustainable development, towards low emissions, but at the same time, you subsidize a lot fossil fuel. In most of our countries, fossil fuel is really much subsidized, and renewable energy solutions are not that subsidized. And I believe that we need to change that paradigm. We need to change that momentum so that people are more and more engaged. People can have easier access to renewable energy solutions. When you look at it in Europe, for example, when you have solar panels in your house, you get funded. Even the US, you get funded, you get resource, you get tax from the government. But in Africa, you even pay more to get those solutions. So it's very difficult. The cost of those solutions is also a very big problem to do that. And when you look at countries in Europe or in the US, fossil fuel is actually it's not it's a very it's not a luxury product. It's a necessity, but it's not a luxury product because not everybody can afford to have that. But in Africa, we make sure governments want to make sure that everybody can afford fossil fuel, which contradicts in the fight against renewable energy. But more and more countries, I think Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, are working towards having that balance where they can make sure that renewable energy solutions are more subsidized and lower the subsidies in the fossil fuel.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
No, sorry, if I may add, yeah, I think we really need a market transformation, and governments can impulse this transformation. And I just would like to add also that we need also to look from the demand side, because access is something, but then the quality of the access also matters. So there's also some work to be done on the efficiency of your appliances. I mean, if you get access in your home, you don't want to have a very old fridge and a very old TV that will that will use all your electricity and in 1 hour because they're extremely inefficient. So that's another big piece of work that needs to be done to ensure the quality and the reliability of the access. I'm not hearing anything anymore.
I think Amaka is a bit okay. She's having some challenge,
Okay.
so that's why I'm here. No worries. So the show must go on. So thank you so much for the insights, and thank you so much for the audience for being engaging. Amaka, I was just trying to keep the conversation going, so I will let you
Yeah,
continue.
I lost my network. Yeah, but I turned it back on. Yeah,
Okay.
my Wi-Fi went on. It's raining here. In case you're hearing, it's been a lot of storm, but I got back up today, so I'm back. Thank you. I hope I wasn't gone for too long. Thank you very much for that response. I guess I'm going to catch it in the replay, which is the question that Catherine is asking. She said, "Oh, I missed the energy session." No, you are still catching part of it. Is there a way to watch? Yes, it's streamed live on YouTube, so you can watch it as many times as you want. So you can go to my YouTube. It's Dr. Amaka Ifeduba, and it's going to be there. It's streamed live. So thank you so much for saying that. Let's see what Divine is saying. It says institutional voids that need to be filled to achieve sustainable development goals. Okay, she said education, access, affordability, health, most especially implementing the necessary action. Great insight. So she's summarizing what you said, Mr. Moubarak. She's trying to see that these are some of the gaps that we need to fill in order to reach the goals that we have. Thank you so much, Divine, for summarizing that. Okay, so let's see. Princess, the question of the hour: how can young Nigerians get into tech and climate sector regardless of demographic? Okay, I think that's the next question we're going to tackle, right? I think we already talked about that question, but I'm going to just highlight it and tie it into the question for you, Dr. Thibaut, to ask: what are some of the challenges that students face when they want to transition? When students want to get into the energy transition field, how can they overcome them? I guess that would also answer Princess's question, because as a student now, when you're hearing this and it's kind of new for you and it's all new and you're wondering, definitely there are challenges you would face, but how will you be able to overcome it in order to succeed? Thank you so much, Princess, for that question. Yes.
Well, yeah, thanks for that question. Well, one thing I often hear is energy is too complicated. It's very technical. I don't know anything. I'm not an engineer. That's not for me. And here I have to look at my background. What happened to me? Like I did a PhD in political science. So I'm the very opposite of the engineer. And back in the days when I was in China, I started working on projects like coal to liquids, something that didn't make much sense, but at that time it was it looked very promising for many Chinese companies. Then electric vehicles. This was back in the late 2000s, so that was the very beginning of electric vehicles. And then energy efficiency. And most of the time I attended meetings and people were talking. I was coordinating the interventions of experts from all around the world to support some local industries. I wasn't understanding anything of what the people would say. But because, again, I'm from political science and not the engineer side. But thankfully, I was just here to coordinate the work. I didn't have to get to understand how a boiler works, how to change what is the most efficient piece of a process that needs to be changed and everything. And little by little, I got to learn. I would look, obviously, after the meeting, try to get information on what we were discussing. I read a lot. I spent lots of time catching up on all the things I was missing. But at the end of the day, I'm not an engineer. Again, I'm not able to conduct an energy audit. I'm not able to build a solar panel whatsoever. But I believe I'm able to have good conversations about this with the people working in the field. So this technique questions is not an issue. You can always, unless of course you want to build the stuff, unless you want to build the factories and you want to go into this, would be something. But there are plenty of opportunities where you can that you can look at outside of this realm, and just doing some coordination, doing some public policies, working with the private sector, coordinating some different activities of different stakeholders, developing some projects. There's a lot to be done. I mean, to answer the question, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by regardless of demographic, but let's not forget that according to Sustainable Development Goal 7, Sustainable Development Goal 7 on energy, which is about to become 10-year-old now, and we are so far. I mean, I think we're still about 700 million of people, if I'm correct, that are not having energy access. So we are looking at universal energy access. We're looking at more renewable energy. We're looking at doubling the rate of improvement of energy efficiency. We are not on track for any of this. So the more we work on this, the better we are, I'm sure. And there's always a need for good energy and for smart people to join the field.
Thank you so much for answering that question. That's important. It's important for us to know that, like you said, we are far from being on track with the 2030. As 2030 will soon be here, right? So we need to really do better, and we need to just keep learning as much as we can. So Divine says there are many innovations young people can venture into. Artificial intelligence is taking the lead currently. Discover where you fit in and explore. Thank you, Divine, for summarizing those points. I appreciate it. There's a lot of chat, so I'm trying not to skip any question in case if there is a question. If I skip your question, feel free to write it again. Feel free to write it again. And then Monica EK says that's brilliant, from dead-end batteries to solar energy. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for your contribution. And then Michael says, I think our school curriculum should be redefined in order to create a linkage between all field of study to solving present problems. I absolutely agree with you. I also agree that the present curriculum, especially for bachelor's degree, needs to be improved. You know, people should go to school to learn to solve problems. I agree. Okay, Ni says, thank you, Dr. Thibaut, for your thoughts on technologies, innovations, and positions in the energy and climate sectors. Oh, are you asking? Okay, thank you for your thoughts on technologies, innovation, and positions in energy and climate sectors, particularly on the use of AI. Oh, okay, that's not a question. He's just appreciating. Thank you so much. And Coach David says, I concur with you. Okay. And then he's also agreeing with what Nia said. I'm trying to see if there is a question. There's a couple of more chats. Augusta. Okay, Augusta is repeating what you said, I guess. There are countries that have huge solar plants that aren't utilized because they fail to leverage private sector collaboration to boost distributions. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your excitement. Ikechukwu says solar energy is a great way to improve renewable energy in Nigeria. With our abundant sunshine, we can power homes, businesses, and even farms, especially in rural areas. It's clean and it reduces reliance on fuel, especially now that the prices on the high side. Thank you so much. You're absolutely correct.
Just on this, I agree with what he just said, but I will just remove businesses to make sure that because for businesses, one of the key issues, one of the key things is the availability of the energy. So with solar, we have quite difficulties to have very reliable and available energies. So, but for anything else, I will say I will thumbs up
Okay,
to
thank
it.
you for that input. Yes, I guess for businesses it needs to be stable, and then you need to use the solar as backup. Well, at least for homes, if it goes off, then nothing goes wrong, right? You can use an alternative
Exactly.
source. Yes, thank you so much. All right, and somebody is appreciating you. He says, "Thank you for your thoughts. It's not on the production, but it's making everyone to gain access to it." Yeah, right. It's about access at the end of the day, right? It's about access. It's about access. Let me see. Is there a question? Let's see. Says that's a great goal. Lack of access is a serious issue that is hindering sustainability across most industry, agriculture most especially. You need to know that Divine is an agricultural expert, so I'm sure she speaks for agriculture. Yeah, she writes a lot of wonderful content on agriculture, and she's preparing for graduate school. She's preparing to come to the US for graduate school to continue her agriculture work.
That's great.
Thank you, Divine, for your contribution. Blessing says to stay ahead of innovative solutions, it's pivotal to connect with experts in the field. Yes, we agree with you. That's right. And then Engineer Patrick, expanding global energy access requires investing in renewable sources, upgrading infrastructure, and supporting innovative solutions like off-grid solar system to reach underserved communities. Thank you so much, Mr. Mubarak. You see, these people they are listening, they are learning, and they are giving it back to us. It's so exciting. I'm so excited to read all of this. Okay, I'm going to stop with this, and then we can wrap up our conversation today because we can go on and on and on. Eremosele, he said, I did a job with ECREEE. I wish I knew that what that is. I don't, but hopefully you will tell me.
It's ECRE is the West African Renewable Energy
Okay,
Commission.
now I've learned something new. Okay, he worked with that. Then there is a lot of okay, let me try to make sense of your sentence. There's a lot to do with sustainable energy, but the government commitment towards transition is low. Only Senegal has maximized this potential up to 80%. A lot more needs to be done. Oh, okay. So the government is not committed. I guess that would lead to the next question I wanted to ask Mr. Mubarak about international collaborations, right? How do you think, what's the role? What do you think international collaborations would help Africa really to get involved in this process and kind of scale the process beyond what it is right now? Because we know that our
No,
government.
no, no. I think I think I think international collaboration is key. It's paramount, and we cannot do without it. And when you look at the first thing that a financial expert looks at when he looks at the projects, it's a return rate on investment. Is how much do I gain when I put one dime in the resources? And I always tend to tell people money is not the issue because money is largely available. When you look at COVID-19, Sub-Saharan Africa was able to mobilize 5.4 billion US dollars in the course of 2 to 3 years. So it means that uh, the resources are out there, but linked, those resources are not resources that we can use for development projects. And here we are talking about development projects, and we need to make sure that we use instruments that can bring more concessionalities to those resources that we mobilize on the private sector, on the international capital markets. So it's very important that we use those instruments. We develop blending finance instruments. We mobilize resources. One of the projects that I talked about earlier on disaster risk, and I'm really happy that we were able to develop, is a fruit of a very strong international multilateral collaboration, and I believe the partnership played a strong role there. We were able to mobilize resources from the German government through the German Development Bank, the KfW, given resources to the West African Development Bank, and then developing a product together with the African Risk Capacity, the Munich Ray, the Frankfurt School of Management, and making sure that all this come together to give the projects a chance to be able to develop. Imagine And this instrument actually serves as a backbone when the governments face a catastrophe. The insurance company can pay back the loans of the government on the projects, on the portfolio from the West African Development Bank, and then the governments have to use those resources that they were supposed to pay back to the bank to actually come and support the communities that are affected by these disasters. And I believe it's very important that all these institutions come together with their tools, with the instruments to collaborate. I see a question from Luisa on private sector and public sector development. And I believe when we did an assessment on implementing the nationally determined contribution, the Paris Agreement in our region, more than 70% of the resources needed will come definitely from the private sector. But then the governments, like I said earlier, have to design and put together the enabling environments to attract private sector. And one of the things that we are also working on is to have equity solutions, because you need to support private sector with equity solution, and you also need to support with guarantee instruments. And we're working together to implement those solutions to make sure that private sector brings in the money. Because one of the key things that you need to keep in mind when a private sector is bringing money is that they want a return rate on investment. So you need to make your project sexy, attractive, and make sure that they are able to invest into your projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Thibaut, you want to add something to that? I see you leaning in. Do you want to say something?
No, I cannot
okay.
say anything, but I completely agree with Moubarak. I worked a lot on public-private partnerships, international public-private partnerships, and especially the companies bring the money, bring the technology, and the various essentials, but then they need to have access to the market. I mean, the access to the market needs to be facilitated often by the government.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the insight. And I think Nii is reiterating what you said. He said the challenge with renewable energy is its intermittent nature. Hence, the focus is still on optimizing consumption from fossil fuels to emit less carbon dioxide, and with new development on nuclear energies. Okay.
And battery storage. When you produce, if you can store the electricity that you're producing, then you manage to address the question of intermittent, the issues of these energies being intermittent.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then Catherine says, "Thank you for the insightful session. I have a question. Don't solar panels contain hazardous materials? If every household adopts them, wouldn't that pose environmental or health challenges on the long run? How do we navigate this to be truly sustainable?" I guess that's what she's trying to say, to be truly sustainable. So, yeah, what are your insights? She's wondering, solar panels, if everybody adopts it, is it going to become an environmental concern in the long run?
No, definitely, Thibaut. If I may, definitely, I think it's and that's one of the challenges most of the countries are faced with. And last year, speaking with the Minister of Sustainable Development and Environment in Benin, one of the things that he clearly told us that is stopping them from pushing solar vehicles and solar motorcycles is because they don't have a clear solution for how to treat the waste after all. So one of the things that they're doing is that they put in the enabling environment. They want the private sector to be involved in, but for the private sector to be involved in, they need to have the necessity. They need to abide by all the rules and regulations before they can actually bring in all those equipment, those solutions. So the enabling environment is key, and it's very important. And I totally agree, 100% agree that if that enabling environment is not there, it's a very dangerous thing to do and to have for the community and for
yes, I agree with you. Those were my thoughts. Yes, were you saying something?
Yeah, no, I think indeed recycling, the recycle process of the solar panels is absolutely key. It's absolutely key not only to avoid some hazardous, some damages, environmental health damages, but also to get the materials back and reuse them, because let's face it, we need a lot of electricity and we have lots of constraints in terms of materials. We are talking about some shortages of silver, of many different materials that are used for solar panels. So we need to recycle them. That's extremely important. And then we are talking here about very local hazards. I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but it's local. But if you consider the global impact of other sources of energy, typically fossil fuels, it's much more limited. But which doesn't mean that it shouldn't be addressed. But however, that's also something that should be kept in mind.
Thank you so much. I guess I'm just going to follow up with asking you this question from Eremosele, Dr. Thibaut. He said, how can young professionals in unrelated fields pivot into climate tech or energy access without starting over? I guess this is you mentioned that you're from political science, right? So maybe you can summarize how you managed to go from your political science background to what you're doing now, and young people who are interested and they just feel like they don't want to start their life all over. How can they pivot? What will be the stepping stone for them?
Well, for me, it was just a piece of luck, and sometimes you have to ride the waves of the opportunities, and this takes you somewhere. Another option is obviously to follow a master to like the one that we are developing, but otherwise, I mean, Moubarak at the beginning talked about volunteering. That can also be a good way, like through different work that you will be doing at the local level whatsoever. You can get a first dig into these sectors, learn more about how it works, about the opportunities, and little by little, you will achieve your goal and find a job in that field.
Yeah, I think so too. I was thinking along those lines that the good thing is to look for opportunities that are there for you, and then try to get a master's degree. I think a master's degree is a way to just have a broader insight of a particular field. Like you have that 1 to 2 years of education of learning something, and that's how you become the expert, right? You become the master from getting the degree. So I really feel that would be a starting point for any young person who feel like they have a bachelor's degree and this is something that is interesting them. You want to look at the program they are developing and they're offering, and then see how that's going to be helpful for you. Definitely, Augusta is your go-to person. She's the person you want to consult with. You want to ask her all the questions about the program and how you can get started. Thank you so much, Eremosele, for that question. And we have Engineer Patrick, and he said, yes, I totally resonate with this. At Lafarge, where I work, we ventured into alternative fuels and raw materials with low emission. It isn't just a step forward, it's a bold step towards cleaner, more sustainable future, proving that the industry and environment, okay, yeah, I can see the rest here, and environmental responsibility can empower the world together. Thank you so much, Dr. Patrick. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for being so active and giving us your thoughts. We truly appreciate that. So I'm going to ask you the last question I have for you before we go back to the chat to see if there are more questions from our audience. Dr. Thibaut, first of all, before Mr. Moubarak. I guess this would just be like, what would be the general advice you would give to students? What's your advice? People who are just starting off, or people who are trying to transition, what are some of those nuggets that they should look out for? What are the pitfalls they should be avoiding, in order to get into this new climate tech environment, so to say?
I think I've mentioned it already. You need to be curious. That's a general thing. Be curious. Explore at every level what's happening and what are the opportunities. Then at the personal approach, I think in 3 words, you need humility, and that's something I've heard quite a lot actually. That people in the field. The companies say that many of the young people coming in the field lack humility. So I think this is something that we need to develop, all of us, because it's such a complex and important field that we need to stay humble in front of it. You need to develop your agility, capacity to adapt to different situations, because we're living in such a changing world that you always need to be ready to major changes. You need to be passionate also. And once you get to a company in the energy field, I also have 3 things I would like to say. I think you need to focus on sustainability. Moubarak has mentioned it already. These days, there's lots of critics about sustainability, but 5 to 10 years from now, the business which are successful will be the ones who invested in sustainability, who have also invested in resilience. Changing world means you need to be resilient. Your business needs to be resilient. And diversity is also very crucial. We are 2 guests here. We are 2 men. I'm a white man, so I'm not the good person to talk about diversity, but in front of us we have 2 women with PhDs, so that's the proof that there's lots of resources in both sides, both genders, and women need to be promoted at all the levels, I think, especially in the energy field, which is very masculine.
Thank you so much for that advice. Augusta is a medical doctor. She's MD. It's not PhD, yeah, but yeah, that's a
Okay.
lot of learning.
You had a PhD. Sorry for that.
She decided to
You deserve it.
abandon clinical practice and go become an education consultant. She's breaking barriers. She's doing what she wants, but she's a medical doctor, so she's a strange one, right? She's special that way. All right, Dr. Augusta was putting out the information. If you need to send an email, you want to get more information about how you can enroll in this master's program, so you could just take down her email address and then send her an email. So I just wanted to project that for you to get that email address before we move forward. Okay, so there is a question. Before I'll ask for your own advice, Mr. Moubarak, I think Louisa is asking another question. Is that a question we answered, or is that a different question? So from an investor standpoint, how does investing in sustainable energy assets, particularly in emerging markets, contribute to economic development? Okay, from an investor, somebody who is trying to invest. Okay, that's an interesting question. So, Mr. Moubarak, you can take that question while we begin to work.
No, definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it also has to do with the countries that you are investing in strategy and the development strategy. So it's very important to look at what the country, what is the trend towards which the country is going. You take a country like Benin, or even a country like Senegal, where today they have a lot of solution in energy transition, looking at energy transition. It's a very good country to go in and invest in right now in sustainable development and solar energy issues. So it really depends. If you go to a country like Morocco, where it's already very established, it's already very much available and all that, the impact on investments will not be as your return will not be as high or profitable as if you invest in a country where there is nothing. And so you need to look at what is the current architecture and platform in the countries before you as an investor you go into that country. Thank you.
That makes a lot of sense. So you really need to kind of study, know what the architecture is, and then you can make your decision based on that. Thank you so much. So let's see what Tobenna is saying. He says the shift has long been overdue, and Africa needs to start keying into developmental technologies in this regard. The transition is here, and all stakeholders have to work together to ensure a structured transition. That is such an intelligent input. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
But I want to
Okay.
go back on that. And Thibaut said something earlier on when we think about innovation and technology and all that, we shouldn't go look very far. And believe it or not, when you look at African societies today, we are actually progressing. We are not progressing as fast as others do, but we are actually doing that step by step, baby steps, but we are doing steps. Because when you look at how the others evolved, the others have energy and they have internet access. And energy and internet access alone makes the process very fast. For us, we need to take into consideration that major part of our population don't have energy access and they don't have internet access. So even if we want to do those progress and those transitions, we need to take it step by step to make sure we include everybody. Otherwise, we will make innovation, we will make technology progress when we drive fast, and then we leave many behind. So we need to make sure that we also understand that when you look at mobile money today, Africa is the place where you have more mobile money improvements than anywhere around the world, because the banking system is not available to everybody. So that's a core solution for the little users. So we need to make sure that Africa is not that behind on everything. On some things as well, we can be proud of how we evolve, but we need to make sure that this takes into consideration all our people and populations as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Whatever we do in technology, it has to have a lot of cultural context, right? The innovation has to be for the people,
Definitely.
and we have to do it in such a way that we are taking everybody along. So the technology has to make sense for the people that you're giving it to, and just as you explained.
Definitely.
And Africa, I believe we can move faster. That's my opinion. But your point is also very clear that we need to consider some of the constraints or some of the challenges that Africa is facing that a lot of the other developing nations did not face, like the access to the energy and all of those things. So thank you very much for adding that input to the conversation. And then I think Engineer Patrick again is saying private partnership drive climate tech innovation by combining funding, policy support, and expertise. And professionals can benefit by gaining green skills, networking, and working on sustainable solutions. Thank you so much. That's insightful. I appreciate your input. And let's see what Remosele has to say. Addressing renewable waste in Africa requires strong policies, innovative recycling technologies, public awareness, circular economy models, and partnership to transform waste into valuable resources while ensuring sustainability and environmental protection. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think recycling is something that needs to improve in Africa, in my opinion, because I was in Nigeria up to just a couple of years ago, and I cannot remember ever recycling anything, any kind of plastic or anything. It just went to waste. I cannot remember ever having that access or having that training or having that idea that, oh, put your waste separate, keep this one for recycling, and then this should go to waste. So I feel like that's like something that we don't need to look very far. We can start from those little things that we can control and begin to see how we make those difference. So that will bring me to my last question to you, which is a similar question to what I asked Dr. Thibaut. Now we want to give advice to the young people, right? I guess the same advice you probably would have given yourself 20 years ago. So what advice would you give to all the young people who are excited about their future, about the transitions, and what are some of the loopholes they should avoid?
No. I will. My own example is it can be interesting because when I started in this looking at climate finance issues in 2008, I believe it wasn't my field of interest. I was a financial analyst, and there was an opportunity there. There was the institution where I was working wanted to develop carbon markets, and they were looking at people to be involved. So we had a consultant that was assigned to work to develop a strategy. So I volunteered myself to work together with that consultant and to make sure that we develop the strategy and all that. And when it came to the time to present that internally, to share the capacity internally, I was the one doing the work, and then it started from there. So I had no knowledge in 2008. I had zero knowledge on climate finance, and it was very interesting. The only first time I saw anything about carbon markets was during my internship, when I needed to do an internship, and then the professor back then in the US recommended me to look at a new subject that they were developing in the school, because I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to do as a postdoctorate or something like that. So one of the things, I just went into it and started working with them, volunteered, did the work, and then today I think I don't regret having that step. But on the way, I did a lot of certificates. I did a lot of other trainings. About a year and a half ago, I did another master again. Which, do I really need it? In reality, I don't really need it. But to keep up and with the new technologies, with the new knowledge and all that, I thought it was very important for me to have to do a master degree, to have that skill. So it's very important that we have that. And I saw that Maureen said something about passion, and it's also very important when you look at fields, when you look at areas where you want to develop. It also has to do with something you are passionate about. And every morning when I wake up, and then my kids, my wife, they tell me, if you are always working, you are always because in reality, I feel like I never work. I feel like I'm always having fun when doing my work. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's not a burden for me to wake up, to dress up, to wear a tie and go to work, because it's fun when I do this thing, when I do this transformation project and all that. It's very fun for me. So for me, I am just playing, I'm just having fun, I'm just enjoying it. So that's how we need to see, we need to also look at when we're looking at opportunity work, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing those personal experiences, because most times the best way to give advice is to just give advice from your own personal experience and what you did and how you navigated it.
Definitely.
And you emphasize the whole idea of volunteering, just plugging yourself in and being willing to be the beginner who does not know but who is willing to learn. And then I guess being passionate, right?
Definitely.
Just as Maureen was saying here, she says diversifying, it has more to do with passion. She says she studied computer science, but presently she's building in cybersecurity, and equally a startup company in cosmetic production. Okay, so determination, striving to do more with what that's okay. Determination and striving to do more is what has gotten her so far. Thank you so much, Maureen, for sharing that with us. And you're absolutely correct, I guess. You were just re-echoing Mr. Mubarak's thought that it's important for us to just follow our areas of passion, and it will be easier. Every day will feel like playing, right? Just as it is for you. You wake up and you're excited to go to work. It doesn't feel like. So Eramosele is asking a question which I think is for Dr. Thibaut, right? And I think this is a very important question. I guess a lot of Africans will want to hear the answer to this question. He says, are there opportunities at emlyon to support research master's program, particularly for African students who may face financial barriers? Given the growing interest in this field, are there financial aid options or scholarship to make it easier for them? Yeah, that's an important question. Yeah, that's I also want to know. Is there somehow they can manage to, some financial aid, some scholarship, partial or full or something? What are the program structure?
So I don't know about all the scholarships that are available, but I know that we do have some that will alleviate a bit the cost of the MSc, depending on the profile, of course. So this is something you should be asking when applying. But there are other scholarships probably outside of the MSc that I'm not necessarily aware of.
Okay, I guess the best person again that would help you navigate that process is Augusta, because she knows everything about school in France, MBA in France, study in France. Of course, you want to navigate to get as much help as you can, because we know that, especially for Africans, the exchange rates can be steep. It can be really steep to pay, even a $5,000 school fees if it's in dollar or something. So if there are opportunities, you want to go with someone who has been there, who can help you navigate and tell you some of the financial aids that are available to you and some of the opportunities that are there for you. Thank you so much for that. I think we are kind of winding down at this point. And Louisa says, thank you for this insightful session. Just to add, according to International Energy Agency, the clean energy sector is expected to generate over 14 million new jobs by 2030. Okay, that's a lot of jobs. Summary, the demand for skilled talent in climate tech, the demand for skilled talent in climate tech is booming. Hence, the need to upskill is highly beneficial. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. That's very insightful. I didn't know it was 14 million new jobs. That's a whole lot of jobs. Okay, at this point, Augusta, I'm just going to hand it to you just to do a quick summary for us, just to tie it in together before we can have our guest speakers give us their final word. I think we are getting to the 2 hours mark, and the goal would be to be here right at the 2 hour mark. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a very interesting time.
Wow, thank you so much. This has been such a master class. I mean, what we've packed into this less than 2 hours has been amazing. It's been exciting as much as it has been insightful. So thank you, Amaka, the host to the most. I love how you're keeping the conversation going. Thank you to our special guests, Thibaut and Mubarak, for just being open, being so generous with the information, answering the questions, and obviously we will not be here. I mean, as Amaka used to say, we would have just been on the Zoom room if we didn't have our amazing audience, our attendees who have been chipping in with nuggets, keeping the conversation alive. So without I won't spend lots of time. I'm just going to share some things that resonated with me, starting with the most recent. So I think Thibaut said young people need humility. I mean, we're talking about career transition, energy access, and all of that. But humility, soft skills are important. Adaptability, focus on sustainability, resilience, and diversity. I think that was important for me to point out because I mean, in any sector, actually, even whether it's here or otherwise, you need these skills. And then another thing that touched me, he said, was energy should not be a luxury item. I think it was Mubarak that said this. It shouldn't be a luxury item. As he said, in Africa and third world countries, you see that energy access is more like luxury because you spend more, you pay more to get access to this. Meanwhile, in countries like France, where I am, you get tax reductions if you purchase sustainable products like electric vehicles or solar panels for your houses. So he also said that access is one thing, but quality and reliable access is what we're looking for, right? Okay. So
Good.
I'm going to keep going. He said our countries in Africa have huge potential. We have huge potential. And just to tie back to what Riza said, there's a whole room. Africa has the population, we have the young people. So we have the potential, we have the right people to seek these opportunities to take further the narrative to push for energy access in Africa. It's Africa that is going to push for energy access in Africa, not Europeans, right? So the onus is on us. As one of the speakers said, we are still far away from reaching the SDGs in 20. This is 2025, right? And SDG is 2030. So we are still very far away. So we all hands need to be on deck. We all need to come together to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. So there is a lot of funding. As they said, it's a multi-billion-dollar project, right? So you're going to be managing such a big industry, and there's a 40 to 60% of funding in energy access and agriculture, as well as affordable housing, right? And then when we talk about getting ready to be that person who is going to make the change, who is going to, you know, pivot this whole field, you need to make yourself job ready. And how can you do this? You need to participate in training and certificate courses. You need to participate in activities organized by NGOs. You can join Mubarak's NGO, that's West Africa Development Bank, to see what they are doing. Make yourself available, build a network. You can connect with Mubarak. He's very open to connect. When I sent a request, he accepted immediately. So you want to connect with him and engage with people in this field. Just ask questions, learn from what they are doing, make yourself available. And one thing he said that also touched me was, without energy, there is no such thing as development. Wow, I would need to get deep into this because I didn't see this before. I don't know how energy has to do with development, but see, that was an eye opener for me. And then to tie back to what Thibaut said, he spoke a bit about the MSc in Energy Transitions program, Management of Energy Transitions program at emlyon Business School, and he mentioned, you have to have the technical skills, so you have to have some knowledge about energy technology. That's the technical knowledge, knowing about solar panels, oil and gas, and all of that. And the school focuses on business training because we need people who can manage this transition. And then obviously soft skills, once again, you gain international exposure and be taught how to communicate with stakeholders, right? I think this is like the most important thing I think I've summarized from this conversation, right? Yes. Thank you so much, guys.
I'm clapping for you. That's a very beautiful one. Thank you very much for tying it all together. Right? It's a lot of information, and somehow just being able to tie it into a few minutes and just help us to get the recap. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, for being so engaged, for making it like a whole conversation, a three-way, right? Before we go, we have like 10 minutes. I'm still going to ask Dr. Thibaut if you have any final words in a minute or two, and then I'll do the same for Mr. Moubarak, and that will be it for the day. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It was great. Thanks for the audience. Thanks for Augusta for this summary, and thanks for the amazing moderation, Dr. Amaka. You have to teach me how you can listen to people saying what the people are saying, looking at the comments coming up, reading them, identifying the questions. I mean, I wish I could be multitasking like this. And no, yeah, it was a very inspiring conversation. I'm very hopeful with all the things I've seen happening in Africa, and Moubarak is totally right when he says that things are moving. That's one thing I'm often thinking, just how faster and how much could be done with better electricity, better internet connection, better communication, and I'm very hopeful for the coming years, and it's very exciting to see what's happening. So I hope we'll get the chance to exchange and to work together again very soon.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your compliments. It takes a bit of skill to do what I do, so I'm so proud of myself. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I have to multitask quite a bit to make sure that everybody in the conversation are part of the conversation. Thank you so much. And Mr. Moubarak, any final words for you, for the audience?
Yes. Thank you very much to both Amaka and Augusta, but also thank you to Thibaut for inviting me to this. I know you told me this since January, and then it was in my head, and I'm happy that I connected, because one of the things that we are also doing as African professionals is that we want to support more our younger brothers and sisters. I saw a question earlier about financial constraints to have studies degree, master's degree, and all that, and it's actually true, and it's very important that we do that. So to give back, what we are doing is that we, with a group of friends, we look on LinkedIn. And I think I will share that a post with a group where we actually support students or young professionals that are doing research documents. We support them in finalizing those documents and so on and so forth. So very available and open to do that. Having a conversation like this for us, it's very important. It's 2 hours on a Saturday evening for me. I think I will give back anytime if I could, and I think this is very important. It's very important that we give back to our communities and that we share the knowledge that we have. And sometimes when discussing with the younger brothers and sisters on the documents that they write, I actually learn a lot more than I give back to them. And I always tell them that these research documents that they're doing, they're sharing with me to look at, it's very important because they give me more information that I already know. So I think I am available and very open to support this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's so great to connect with you. It's so great to connect with Dr. Thibaut. Thank you, Dr. Augusta, for making the connection. This has been a very insightful event. I learned a lot myself. This is not something that I have a background in, so it was a learning session for me. And I'm definitely going to go back and watch again, just to hear again, just to make sure that my knowledge is there. So like I said, this event is streamed live, so you could subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Dr. Amaka Ifeduba, so you can have access to all our previous events, all our future events. We always have it there. Let's see what they're saying in the chat before we wind down. Eremosele said, Dr. Amaka, thank you. You are welcome, Eremosele. And then Ibironke says, well done, Scholar Up. We appreciate you too. Thank you for being here. And then we have Louisa. I said, thanks, Dr. Amaka, host with the most indeed. Okay, you rock. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then we'll see someone else says, thank you all. It was great to hear from your experience. So it was also great to have you. Eremosele says he will send you a request, Mr. Moubarak. So connect with everyone, right? That's it. That's the whole point of this. Anybody you connect with, even if you send a message to say you met them here, I'm sure they will be very happy to connect with you. They'll be very happy to have a conversation with you. Just being here is already an icebreaker, right? You've already broken the ice. So you have a starting point to that conversation. Hello, Dr. Thibaut. I met you at this event. I'm sending a follow-up. Already you have his attention because he knows where you met him. Hello, Mr. Moubarak. I was at this event, and it's easy to start that conversation. So now you are no longer a stranger to him, right? So Princess made a summary for us. She says steps to be ready for a job in 2025, participate in courses and certificates, join NGOs, and build a strong network. Thank you so much. And then Louisa is saying, Mr. Thibaut, Dr. Thibaut, I sent you a LinkedIn connection. So I guess you get a lot of connections. You know that they are coming from here. That's good. So Augusta is reiterating her points. Without energy, there is no development. Okay. Somebody else says, thank you for the amazing insight. So thank you so much, everyone. We are really excited that we were able to manage our time. I said it right at the beginning that I wanted us to finish in 2 hours, and that's exactly what we've done. We're able to take all the questions, take all the insights, and have our conversations. Make sure you are connected with us at Scholar Up. You want to build a strong network, you know where to start from. So I'm going to end the event by just also playing our 1-minute video. In case you missed it at the beginning, then you can get to catch it at the end. And our LinkedIn Elevation Program, Cohort 10, is going to start very soon. If you've not signed up, you want to reach out to me, reach out to Dr. Augusta, sign up for the event, and make sure you are being intentional about building your network. It's very, very important. Once again, I thank you, Mr. Moubarak, for your time. I thank you, Dr. Thibaut, for your time. We really appreciate you for taking the time to spend these 2 hours with us and share these insights. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to play the video now.
Success begins with the right guidance and opportunities. And at Scholar Up Mentoring Academy, we are here to help you unlock your full potential. Whether you're preparing for graduate school applications or building a standout professional presence on LinkedIn, we provide the tools and support you need to thrive. Our programs are designed to help you craft a compelling personal brand, position yourself for global opportunities, and achieve your dreams. Led by Dr. Amaka Ifaduba, a dedicated mentor and coach, Scholar Up empowers you with personalized mentoring, actionable resources, and proven strategies to take bold steps toward a brighter future. Scholar Up Mentoring Academy is more than a program. It's a community dedicated to helping you succeed. Take the first step today and discover how we can guide you on your journey to greatness. Follow our page for updates and access all our resources at linktree.com/scholarupacademy. Your success story starts here.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you. I'm going to end the live stream right now. See you in our next event. Thank you again.